Well, first of all, I think it's critically important in order to know where you're heading, you've got to know where you've come from. And our history in Houston, as it relates to desegregation, is a very undertold, unknown story. And the strange demise of Jim Crow seeks to explain why that story is not well known. And then, of course, what exactly happened here in Houston that was unique. What you'll find in watching the film is just an hour. We were going everywhere we could in my time as a city council member to educate people about uh, what our history was here. And the Texas Southern University sit-ins were part of that story. The Black business sector, the white business sector were also part of that story, and also some key points in history were part of that story. So it's a very interesting uh, depiction of the fact that there were some agreements made behind the scenes, much in the Houston-like fashion, where they said, "Listen, we do not want to see rampant violence. We don't want to see widespread discord. How do we desegregate the city peacefully?" And so there were things like the blackout that were implemented that is why you don't see a lot of imagery from that time frame, is because it was intentional not to show it in order to not incite more violence, more excitement, more energy around the efforts that were taking place. So it's a very intriguing tale of how all of these different stakeholders and actors, some of whom did not necessarily have the exact same, goal in mind as it relates to their driving force, but they did want to see a peaceful desegregation in the city, and so it's a very unique story. I think probably unlike any other in this country.
Is that during that time, there was so many movements taking place. That was the women's movement, the peace movement, the end of war movements that were taking place. That was the anti-environmental racism movements that were taking place. Um, and all of this fervor was in the quest for creating a new America and trying to live up to some promises that were never met, even though they were loudly championed about building a more perfect union uh, in this country. We also have to remember that Texas was part of the Confederacy, and we had, and Louisiana, and we had grown up bumping our heads against um, the fossils who represented the dying social order. And so it was a dying social order that was coming into conflict with a new emerging social order. And that led to not only desegregation in Houston. Um, I think that the method that guided this movement was in Houston, that much of it has to be attributed to the foresightedness of leaders that I just spoke of, um, leaders like Bill Lawson, Pearl Sewell, Christina Adair, um, and a host of other forward looking leaders who understood that the student population, the energy that was going to be released, the activism was the key to breaking the shackles of Jim Crow.
Like I said, we had our own spin on this, right? And so we didn't just do what everybody else was doing. Yes, we had TSU participating in sit ins, we had that. But we also had business leaders that were trying to make deals behind the scenes. The Black business community and the white business community were coming together and saying, listen, how do we do this quickly, peacefully? How do we get this done? But the ultimate goal that I think is very Houston like is getting things done. So I think that there were certainly instances that could have amounted to more more disarray and more challenges, but we avoided those situations as best as possible. Now, the downside of the approach that was taken is that we don't know our history. Because they blacked all of this out strategically, meaning the media did not take pictures and put it on the news. The media was not front and center filming the sit in. The media strategically stood back and stood down so that we would not have that, imagery to, available at that time. Now, the disappointing part of that is we don't have it now either, because of the fact that media, plays that role of documenting and providing us with a roadmap of our history. And in that case, strategically, we said we weren't going to have it in order to move the agreement along.